The sun is dependent on the eyes of the universal form. The Brahma Samhita also says that the sun is the eye of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. Yet Chakshuresh Savita, Savita means the sun. The sun is the eye of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Actually, everything is created by the universal body of the Supreme Godhead. Material nature is simply the supplier of materials. The creation is actually done by the Supreme Lord as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Maya Dhamsena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam. Under my direction does material nature create all moving and non-moving objects in the cosmic creation. The sense of Bhaktivedanta. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharya Visheshashunyavadi Paschatya Desatarini. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gauravakta. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. In the wake of the olfactory sense came the wind god who presides over the sense. Thereafter a pair of eyes appeared in the universal form, and in them the sense of sight. In the wake of this sense came the sun god who presides over it. Next there appeared in him a pair of ears, and in them the auditory sense, and in its wake the Dik Devatas or the deities who preside over the directions. So, in this section of this chapter, how the material manifestation takes place further is explained. And the core principle that Sri Prabhupada explains here is it happens by the intervention of the Lord. Without Lord, it is not possible. So, in Bhagavad Gita also we study, we understand. Like the body grows around the soul. Because of the presence of the soul, the body develops. Body is made of matter. Matter doesn't have capacity to grow on its own. So in the same way, matter, there is no capacity in the matter to change. There is no capacity in the matter to develop itself or to take different forms or to transform. There has to be, because matter is dead, it is inert. So there has to be a living force which will act on the matter. Say this Bhagavad Gita is kept here. If I go out of the class and after 1 minute I come and I see Bhagavad Gita is kept on that table, I'll ask who kept it there? Who kept it there? Means there has to be a living person, living force who has moved it from here to there. The Gita per se, the book, doesn't have capacity to move on its own. So for any change, whether it's a change of place, it's a transformation of matter, it's a creation or destruction of matter, for any kind of change, there has to be living force acting on it. Now, same way, this body is made of 8 elements, or all 8 elements are dead. So unless soul is there, there cannot be a growth in the body, there cannot be a transformation in the body. This is the principle. Right? So a person dies, then we see the body is transforming further. It's decaying, decomposing, it's smelling very bad because there are other living entities. There are some bacteria, virus who are working on this body and decomposing it. So there is another living force who is decaying it. So somebody may say soul has gone, now how there is a transformation in the body, change in the body. There are other living entities who are working. But there is definitely a living force which is causing some kind of change. Right? Anywhere we see in this world. So now, same way, there is a golden egg. This is universe created. No, things have to manifest. Now we are talking here is description of the sense of sight, sense of hearing, right? Before that we had the sense of smell, the sense of touch. So like that, different senses and their objects are developing. Later we'll see, no, these are knowledge acquiring senses. Further in this chapter we see uh, working senses also develop. So how these senses, the objects of the senses all are developing because there is presence of the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Soul. So like development of this body depends on soul, development of the universal body depends on Supreme Soul, that is Paramatma. So now here there is a mention of the Lord. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Virat Purusha, situated himself in that golden egg, which was lying on the water, and he divided it into many departments. So he situated himself in that golden egg. So this is Garbhodakshai Vishnu. And then he developed different departments in this universe. And what are these departments? By combination of matter and three modes, then there are different organs, senses, and object of the senses and their interactions. So in brief, Bhagavad Gita explains these. Now, further Prabhupada explains in the purport. As in the womb of a mother, a child gradually grows different bodily parts. So in the universal womb, the universal form of the Lord gives rise to the creation of various paraphernalia. The senses appear, and over each of them there is a presiding deity. It is corroborated by the statements of Srimad Bhagavatam and also by Brahma Samhita that the sun appeared after the appearance of the eyes of the universal form. So when we see, this is another important point from the purport. When we see matter has some power, matter has some features, characteristics. So all these features, all these powers vested in matter are by the potency of the Supreme Lord. Are by the potency of the Supreme Lord. Sun radiates. Ashesha Tejaha. Ashesha matlab not ending. Shesha matlab it has come to an end. It is finished. It is over. Ashesha means it's never over. So sun is dissipating. Ashesha Tejaha. Never ending effulgence. Never ending heat, light. How is it possible? It is possible by the will of the Lord. That potency of sun is vested in that sun planet by the will of the Lord. So we see Nainam Chindanti Shastrani, Nainam Dahati Pavaka, Na Chainam Klebyantapo, Na Shoshiti Maruta, Na Chainam Klebyantapo. Wind has a power to dry things. That potency of wind, like we dry clothes in wind or we dry so many things, say somebody mops this floor, we immediately switch on the fan because wind will quickly dry the floor. That potency of the wind to dry comes by Lord. Right? That capacity of fire to burn comes by Lord. So when Lord gives capacity to fire, that potency in fire to burn, He also gives potency in some objects to not burn. There are some fireproof items also. So that potency also comes from Lord. Right? The capacity of water to wet things, moisten things comes by Lord. So all these potencies which are necessary for human beings to exist, to sustain their life, to continue living in this creation, are given by the Lord. So matter is not independent. So in 7th chapter, Krishna explains two energies. What are the two energies? Material energy and spiritual energy. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego, altogether these 8 comprise my separated material energies. So Lord explains that there are His 8 energies, and then He further says Besides this inferior nature, okay, these 8 energies are called inferior nature because they are inert, they are not conscious. Soul is conscious. Consciousness is the difference between dead matter and living force, or inferior energy and superior energy. Consciousness. Besides this inferior nature, O mighty armed Arjuna, there is a superior energy of mind which are all living entities who are struggling with material nature and are sustaining the universe. So they are struggling with material nature and sustaining the universe. How this universe is sustained? How planets are moving? How the seasons are changing? How wind is blowing? Right? How rain is happening? There are living entities who are controlling it, who are making it happen, and who are sustaining the universe. So dead matter is controlled by a living force, that is the living entity. Now further Lord Krishna says in next verse, of all that is material and all that is spiritual in this world, know for certain that I am both its origin and dissolution. So matter is there which is manifesting in different ways. It's showing, exhibiting different characteristics, different symptoms. Earth has so many features: fire, water, air, ether. They have different features which are described in this chapter. All these characteristics are given by the Lord. Living entity is utilizing or exploiting these energies, creating different manifestations, enjoying by himself, suffering, getting trapped. All the interactions of this material nature with the living entity, right, are because the living entity is conscious and he is trying to control. So dead matter is there with different features. Above that is the living entity who is controlling the dead matter and exploiting and creating manifestations and so many things. Now Lord further says, both these energies come from me, and at the end, at the time of dissolution, they both enter into me. So there is dead matter, there is a controller, and then there is a supreme controller who is controlling both energies. That supreme controller is the Lord. Now further Lord says, O 7th verse, O conqueror of wealth Arjuna, there is no truth superior to me. That means I am the supreme controller. There is an intermediate control living entity, but there is a supreme controller, that is me. There is no truth superior to me. Right? Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. 6th verse, Lord says, I am the origin, I am the dissolution. Right? In between, who is handling, who is maintaining? 7th verse, Lord says, I am the, everything rests upon me, means I am the maintainer. So origin comes by me, maintenance comes by me, and at the end dissolution also comes by me, and they enter into me. In this way Lord establishes he is the supreme controller. Now this aspect of Bhagavad Gita in detail is explained in these chapters of Bhagavatam. That how material creation is dependent on the Lord, how material creation comes from the Lord, stays by Lord's will, and gets dissolved by Lord's will. Right? So whole cosmic manifestation whom the living entities are exploiting, thinking it is for them to enjoy, actually is controlled by the Lord, and the living entity itself who is trying to exploit is also controlled by the Lord. Now further, this is a brief intro that Lord has given. Right? That how this manifestation happens and how the living entity is interacting. Now, in this 6th purport, Prabhupada explains, the entire cosmic manifestation of the gigantic universe is developed because of the presence of the super soul Vishnu. Therefore, spirit and matter which combine together, to manifest this gigantic universal form are originally two energies of the Lord, and consequently the Lord is the original cause of everything. We living entities and the material natural energies of the Lord, he is energetic. We have come from him, maintained by him, and dissolved in him. Okay, living entities don't get dissolved in that sense, but at the end of the creation, at the end of every millennium, the living entities enter into Lord's body, and again when Brahma creates, they appear. The fragmental part and parcel of the Lord, namely the living entity, may by manipulation of material energy construct skyscraper, factory or city, but he cannot create matter out of nothing. He certainly cannot construct a planet or a universe. The cause of the universe is the Super Soul Krishna, the supreme creator of all individual souls, and the original cause of all causes, as the Katha Upanishad confirms, Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. So, this verse explains that living entity cannot create anything on its own, everything comes from God. Now, further, the Lord's presence, the Lord's intervention in this creation is explained in 9th chapter. First Lord said, everything comes from me, rests on me, and is dissolved in me. By me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. So here Lord talks about his material manifestation. How through his material energies he is spread everywhere throughout the universe, and all beings are in me. All the living entities are present or living in this material energy. Right? And I am not in them means he is still aloof from all of them. Next verse. And yet everything that is created does not rest in me. Behold my mystic opulence. Although I am the maintainer of all living entities, and although I am everywhere, still myself is the very source of creation. So here Lord says, Pashyame Yogam Aishwaram. How Prabhupada explains what is that Yogam Aishwaram? Simultaneously, the Lord is present in everything, yet the common man cannot understand how. He is also present personally, he is different from the material manifestation, yet everything is resting on him. This is explained as Yogam Aishwaram by mystic power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, these chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam are explaining these principles of Bhagavad Gita. What is that essential principle? The 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita is titled as Knowledge of the Absolute, Bhagavad Gyan. What is that Bhagavad Gyan actually? In 7th chapter, there is a very significant statement made by Lord. In one sense, I am everything. Lord says that. In one sense, I am everything. In the 12th verse, Lord says in 7th chapter, all material energies come from me. All spiritual energies come from me. Whatever combination you see is combination. Whatever manifestation you see is a combination of these two energies. But everything comes from me, rests in me, and dissolved, and then dissolved and enters into my nature. Then further Lord says, in one sense I am everything. So very clearly Lord has explained, in one sense I am everything. This chapter, Krishna is everything, but nobody is able to see Krishna in everything. So Bhagavad Gyan or knowledge of the absolute means learning or training to see Krishna in everything. That's why Lord gives the example, a very famous example of pearls strung on a thread. Everything is resting on the thread, but nobody is able to see the thread. Everybody is able to see the pearls, the arrangement of pearls, the beauty of the pearls, but nobody is able to see what is holding the pearls. In the same way, now Lord gives further examples in the 7th chapter. I am the taste of water. Everybody is drinking water, everybody is able to feel the refreshing potency of water, but nobody is able to see Lord Krishna in that water. Says, I am the heat of the sun, light of the sun. Right? Everybody is able to feel the light and heat of the sun, but nobody is able to see Krishna. So in 7th chapter, Lord is teaching, whatever you are able to see behind that, I am hidden. Train or learn to see me, Arjuna. Right? That's why the chapter is titled as Bhagavad Gyan, knowledge of the absolute. So, knowledge of the absolute means not just seeing the material manifestation, but seeing the Lord behind the material manifestation. Seeing the Lord behind the interaction of living entity and material manifestation. Whatever a living entity is doing, oh, wonderful creations a living entity does. Wonderful inventions, wonderful manifestations a living entity does with the with the help of matter. Lord says, I am the intelligence, buddhir buddhimatamasmi. Paurusham Nishu, I am the potency or the capability in man. Balam Balvatam Chaham, I am the strength with which he is doing. I am the supplier of all these elements. All these elements have their different characteristics. I am the supplier of these characteristics. So Lord concludes. So if we are able to use earth element and make so many things, earth has to have that potency. Water doesn't have that potency to make a brick. You cannot make a brick out of water, earth can. Right? Earth has aroma, water doesn't have aroma. So earth has different features which one can utilize. All these potencies I have put in earth. All these potencies I have put in water, fire, air, ether. All the potencies in a man, his ability, his intelligence, his stage, his strength, I have put in man. And their combination is creating all these manifestations, but nobody is able to see me. Now Bhagavatam explains how to see Krishna in every finer detail. And that's how Lord Kapila is explaining these aspects of Bhagavatam. That how even if wind is created, how even the sense of touch is created, how even sight is created, eyes are created, the objects are created, how Lord is involved in all these things. And in this way one becomes more and more Krishna conscious. Right? So these principles of Bhagavad Gita, which entail a person not to see the material creation alone, but the real super soul behind this material creation, that is Supreme Lord, is the objective of these chapters of Bhagavatam. And very, very nicely, very detailedly, interestingly, Lord has explained these things in the Bhagavatam, in these chapters. Right? So we'll stop here. Gantha Bhagavatam ki jai. Jai Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. बोलो